presentation, drain commissioners.
Okay. This one we should one each.
Hey, Bonnie, can I keep on Jim's?
Mr. Chairman, Board of Commissioners, and my name is Dave Fisher. For those of you who don't know me in the crowd, I'm your County Drain Commissioner. And today I'm here to present my annual report as required by the state of Michigan. It gets submitted both to you as a Board of Commissioners and also the Department of Agriculture, which is already on its way there. You have a copy of the report in your hands, and I'm going to just kind of let you know, don't try and follow this, because I'm going to go through a PowerPoint that will refer to some of this, so don't try and look for what I have on the screen. And there will be a couple of references that I'll ask you to turn to a certain page. So don't get confused on that, and just kind of pay attention to this, because this is the meat of the presentation. I appreciate the ability to come in here today, and there may be some questions that come up as I go through it, and feel free to raise your hand during there and interrupt me at any time, but I'll also allow it to, we'll have some time at the end to answer some questions. I'd like to start out with one point, and that's basically a statement about the waters of our state and actually the world. Gas has hit $4 a gallon, and it's unfortunate, it's difficult for us and everything, and you know, but we can really live without oil. It would be difficult. Our whole society would change, but we don't live very many days without potable water. That's something that we need that will keep us and sustain us. And how we live on the land and will affect the watershed, and that's a lot of what has to happen in my department, is a lot of education and working with people, because as the years have gone by since the Drain Commissioners were created in 1956 and prior forms of them, water quality has become a huge element, and it's been dumped in the Drain Commissioner's lap, and some are fighting it tooth and nail, and others are embracing it. Muskegon County is one of my passions, has been for many years, so you'll see that, I believe, as we go on. But the report today is designed for, to help you know who we are, what our mission is, and how we plan to accomplish it. And I'd like to, again, introduce you to my staff. Vern Bentley, if you stand up a minute, is my deputy. Stephanie Barrett is my office secretary manager. We are it. We are what some people erroneously call the Drain Commission. There is no Drain Commission. There's the Office of the Drain Commissioner, and you're looking at the three of us. So with everything that we do, I have to lean back and say that this is my support. These are the folks that are helping to get this stuff done, and they're priceless. So thank you very much. So, as we move forward, our mission statement is in front of the Office of the Muskegon County Drain Commissioner, dedicated to provide for the health, safety, and welfare of the residents of Muskegon County, to protect their lands and their quality of life, and to develop watershed management practices that address stormwater runoff while promoting protection and restoration of the Great Lakes water resources. It's a mouthful, but it says it all. And the goals that we are trying to work through as we do this is to modernize and protect our historical records, which we have in our office today. Some of them are over 100 years old. Secondly, to protect and improve our existing assets, which is our records, our files, but also the infrastructure that we have in the field, which is our drains, and some of them which are enclosed, some of them are open. To provide a legal and fiscally responsible financial system to support these goals. That is something that's very important. To seek out and implement collaborative opportunities with our other governmental agencies and other departments, which we are actively doing. A good example, I did pass out to you another magazine that is a statewide distributed magazine that it comes from the Michigan Association of County Drain Commissioners. It's our annual, it's a production, excuse me, I think it's about 6 times a year they put it out. And in there you'll see an article about our office working with the Road Commission and the City of North Shores. And there was a tremendous amount of collaboration that we did in that. A lot of records that were built and some electronic GIS data was developed as a result of that work together. Also to develop partnerships with our local watershed groups, who I have found out over the years, and some of you may know, are a very passionate and active and never tiring group of people that end up in little cubby holes all the time, working late nights and every night, and White Lake and Muskegon Lake, Mono Lake, and Duck Lake. And also, and I think most importantly, is to develop the trust and understanding and transparency with the Muskegon County Board and the other local units and residents of Muskegon County concerning the responsibilities and duties of my office. That has been something that's been missing for quite some time, and it's a primary element and one of the reasons that this PowerPoint has been presented to you. There's a couple of definitions that I would like to go over before we get going and talk about a few things. People talk about the drain code, and that's a reference to the Public Act 40, 1956 as amended. God's country.
God's calling. Sorry.
Okay, Sam. And this is a very complicated and difficult to read code. If you choose to read it some night, it's a good way to get to sleep. But it has about 25 different ways to do 100 different things, is the best way I can describe it. And it opens the doors to what makes our office tick. A county drain refers to the actual ditch or pipe or gutter or combination that is designed and built under procedures of the drain code or other prior legal procedures that existed prior to 1956, which there was a lot of different ways that they made government county drains, okay? And even though they call it a county drain, it's within a drain district, and the drain district refers to a group of properties who own and are responsible for that county drain, and that's a real confusing element. These people own the drain. The county doesn't own the drain. It's their drain. It's their petition. They spent the money to design and build it. They spend the money to maintain it. The drain district is a living, breathing corporation. Drain district can be sued or can be sued. Drain district can borrow money and accordingly has the authority to levy taxes. A few other things that other corporations also have. County drain fund refers to a single account of financial holdings attributable and usable by only that particular drain that is created for it. Our county department calls them trust funds, and there are a number of them, one for each one of our drains. This, folks, is a copy of a map that was on the wall when I was hired by the county in 1976. It's still on the wall today. It's the county drain system, okay? We have worked quite a bit to modernize this, but it is what everybody has looked at for all these years. The Equalization Department has been working very hard with us. We've done an awful lot of work, and it is now changing its shape, and we'll be looking a little bit better than that, but we still refer to it on a daily basis. The County of Muskegon has officially 115 county drains that reach out over 208 miles. And another 150 separate 433 drains. Briefly, a 433 drain was a very controversial drain that was talked about many times. A 433 drain is a county drain that is generally limited to a single property or owner, corporation, or whatever it is, or PUD. The mall on Harvey Street is a PUD as itself. And all of the drainage functions within it are basically a county drain, and they operate amongst themselves. There is a fund for them, and there's some authority that the drain office has over those. The statutory obligations and responsibilities that we bring to the office today, that I'm going to briefly show them to you, and then we'll expand on them one by one. The first responsibility and most important was to maintain the legal records in the existing proposed county drains and their districts. It's a maintenance function. I'm the fiduciary agent for these drain districts, and making sure that they're taken care of and that the money is being handled correctly is my responsibility. Second is to perform as needed scheduled and emergency maintenance on these existing drains to keep the water flowing. Third is to process legally submitted petitions for extending, maintaining, consolidating, creating of any county drain as outlined and specified in sections of the drain code. And like I said a few moments ago, there's a ton of different ways to do it, and many different chapters that involve that. And the fourth thing is to submit an annual report, which we're doing today, covering all the existing and proposed drain district activities, all the costs associated with the same, and the status of the county drain funds. That is included in your report. We'll get to that in a few minutes. Additional functions that the drain office is involved in is plan reviews, water quality obligations, EPA Phase 2 stormwater regulations, watershed partnerships that we're working with, public education, emergency management, and also statutorily under Act 185, I'm a member of the Public Works Board. There are some other regulatory requirements that come into play. We have the Land Division Act, the Condominium Act, and the Mobile Home Commission Act. All of those are state laws which govern the creation of subdivisions and mobile homes, and I have a statutory responsibility to approve those along with the Road Commission, the Health Department, Department of Environmental Quality. Then there's the U.S. EPA Phase 2 stormwater regulations. That one probably has more concern statewide and nationwide now. It's building and building. It is one that I am most concerned about, because where we have always known that we're responsible for the water we throw downstream, it is now the quality of the water that we throw downstream, and there are some direct elements of liabilities that are coming with these water quality elements that are being pointed at the drain districts and anybody else that's operating stormwater systems, and that's a huge issue right now. Public Works Act, which is Act 185, that you folks operate under for all of the enterprise funds. How do we do this? And this is where we come into some of the real confusion, is what is the funding that operates my office? There's a general funding element that the county board shall support the salary, supplies, and office needed for the commissioner, the deputies, the clerks, and other general office staff. These expenditures are to be approved in the same manner as any other general fund department and should provide funding necessary to support the goals and the objectives for the drain office. That's why it's so important that we understand and can work together, and that you know where I'm going, what I'm trying to do when we look at that general fund budget. It is not a very large budget, but it is still the same thing as any other department has. But the code also provides a mechanism to work on the drains. You are not required as a county board to take care of these drains that are out in the field. Everything that are in the field that are county drains are to be provided for by the drains themselves and their individual funds. And to do that, we need revolving funds. And there is one revolving fund, the primary one, which I do have. It's about $20,000 a year, and it's really not a year. That the county board should provide a revolving fund to support the cost associated with petition and other non-maintenance elements. So if somebody comes in and asks me to do a study, somebody comes in and asks me to do a petition and study and hire an engineer and everything, I have to have a pool of money to go to. And there are requirements that when that activity starts, that there's a contractual relationship to make sure that whatever money that gets spent out of that fund is returned to that fund. It is revolving, it must be replaced. There's a time factor on it, depending on petitions. If it is a petition this year, it has to be replaced within 2 years. There's a second revolving fund, and actually a third revolving fund. Both of them we are proposing and have started to do a lot of work. These folks and the accounting department has been just tremendous to help us work and take apart some of these. We've had a couple of different funds that we've used, and we're working in the maintenance fund. And the maintenance fund is essentially manpower. We send someone out to pull a tire out of a drain. That time is charged to that drain. And I'll show you in a minute how that works. If they go out and have to cut trees down and they have to drive there, the equipment that they use, the telephone, the pickup truck, the chainsaw that they use, all of the equipment that's involved in that also has to be charged at that drain. And I'm responsible to keep track of those work orders, the amount of time that they spend in the field, and how much that is costing. And that's part of the report that you get at the end of the year. Other funding options that exist for the Drain Commissioner, because there are other ones at the discretion of my office and also in discussion with you, is that the Commissioner's discretion in drain districts may support activities through bond sales or direct loans. The districts themselves may go out and do that. If the county has a Board of Public Works, the Commissioner may support projects through Act 185, same way that you do your work on your wastewater and your water systems. And on behalf of any district needs, the Commissioner has the authority to make and sign contracts or apply for grants. That could be contracts with other local units, it could be contracts with property owners, contracts with districts, with portions of districts, and also the authority to sign and apply for grants. Also within this system is a set of fees. And we do have a set of fees that you have approved right now for plan review and setting pipes in the drain as far as a farmer putting in a crossing, and those are in there today. But there's also a set of fees that we deal with as far as the equipment rental. How much do we charge for a car that's out there? How much do we charge for the chipper that's out there, or the chainsaw? Those are not something that you have approved yet, but I will be submitting them to you. And it's typical that we use the Michigan Department of Transportation annually updated equipment rental fees, and that's very common across the state. But those fees are to be recommended by me and approved by you. Any fees that I collect for work within a specific drain are to be deposited in that particular drain fund. This is different than what's been done before, because everything was supported by general fund. Any fees we collected went back to your general fund. But as we start relying more on the revolving funds, any fees that are coming out for actual work within a particular drain fund, they end up going back into that drain fund. If it is outside of a drain district, it has no actual legal tie to any drain, those funds will be deposited back into the general fund. Our statutory duties, which we just went through, we're going to go through and work them one at a time. The drain records are the legal documents and all the original documents that pertain to the creation and extension of each county drain. There's, for terminology, there's final orders, there's easements, there's all kinds of stuff that I have to make sure I stay in there. And if there's ever any legal battles, those records are the ones that substantiate the existence of it. Then there's the regular general documents and the activities that happen within the drain. And some of those files are quite extensive. They're held over there now by township, not necessarily by drain. The maintenance function that our office goes through, which is the second statutory requirement, is, excuse me, I'm going to get caught up here with my notes, is supported entirely by these two revolving funds, the maintenance revolving fund and the equipment revolving fund. And a strong preventative maintenance effort can help circumvent the need for more costly restoration. Costs incurred in county drains are responsibility of individual drain districts, as we said, and proactive maintenance reduces the potential financial burden to private property owners and public municipalities that are part of the cost systems in that. The maintenance functions, by definition, involve primarily spray programs, tree and brush, general debris removal of minor erosion, or repair of minor erosion. Maintenance needs must be prioritized and assigned based on yearly inspections, complaints, or emergency needs. We are really required to look at each one of these drains on an annual basis and then prepare work orders accordingly, and then go out and do that work, and that's the track record of all of the documents. There is work that can be done that is maintenance driven. That's how I put things together. There's work that our office also does is by petition, and I want to go through this real quickly. And what is a petition, and when is it needed to do drain work? Petitions are official requests to create, extend, relocate, consolidate, abandon, or maintain the drain. Any work on a county drain which involves more than $5,000 a mile of shovel work, not including engineering or legal work, needs to be done through a petition. Okay, I can't make that happen. I just can't go out and do that. That type of work is expensive, and there is a checks and balance in there, and this has to be driven by the public. Any work under $5,000 a mile is considered minor drain maintenance, and both these costs are a per year element and may proceed at the discretion of the commissioner. But again, the funds need to come from those individuals, and emergencies may be an exception. People, who can submit the petitions? You have property owners, you have a local unit of government, which would be a township or a city. Road agencies can do it through resolutions of its board, and you have the authority as a county board to submit petitions on behalf of local units or the county at large. Most of the time when you get involved in lake boards, but there are other reasons for it. Once a petition is submitted, there are procedures that are complicated depending on the nature of work who petitions. Certain chapters of the drain code will apply. We won't get into them because there's a ton of them. All the procedures generally start with a board of determination, which is very important in a public hearing. A board of determination is created by me after a petition is put through. It's a 3-person board. We basically have to establish a public hearing, and the authority that lies with that board of determination is all with them. At that hearing, they must decide whether or not this petition is necessary in the interest of protection of public health, safety, and welfare. They decide, not me, if this petition work goes forward. And that's a very important element of what a lot of people don't understand, is that board of determination has all that authority. Assessments that may or may not go with these things are very complicated and confusing processes, grants or whatever, but when it comes right down to it, if there are assessments that are involved, there's an apportionment schedule of how do we spread it across these districts. That's my authority or my responsibility to develop how we spread it from one property to the other. We hold a day of review, just like a lot of other special assessment projects where people can take a look at them, and there is an appeals process. But generally, the assessments, and a lot of folks don't understand this, the breakdown, as you see here, that 50% usually goes to property owners, and at my discretion, somewhere in the neighborhood of 25% goes both to the county and to the local unit. We'll talk about that in a little bit. My annual report, the commissioners shall submit this annual report, and the report shall include petitions received, any money I've spent, and drains that we've laid out, and how we've done that all financially, and include a full financial statement of each drainage board. That is included in your report, and we'll get to that in a little bit here. Other duties we're involved in are plan review authorities. The commissioner has the authority, okay, to develop and review all of the land splits, developments, anything that happens within the drain districts. We have the statutory approval provided by some of the other acts that I showed you, which the state requires in subdivisions and condominiums. And then that's where my authority is. If there is a development outside of a bona fide drain district, and it's not statutory requirement of my office, the only authority I have is what is given to me by that local unit. So by resolution or ordinance, the township wants me to review something within their community. My authority is an extension of their authority and not one that comes from the drain code. We have water quality obligations, which is one of the big things with the rest of the drain commission across the state. There's about this much that says we got to keep the water clean. If somebody's putting something in it, I got to go stop it. But on top of that, here comes the EPA Phase 2 requirements. This is new. It's only been around for about 8 or 9 years. It's mandatory participation. We choose to do it on a regional basis. You fund that regional activity today, where we work with several of the cities. It's done on a watershed approach within DEQ. And generally, each drain district is now responsible for the quality of water issues where the system's outlet to the state water. So every place my drains dump into with the state's waters, if there's a problem, I have a problem, and so do the people in the district. Watershed partnerships that we've been developing, we talked earlier about them. Muskegon Lake is very, very active. White Lake is very active. Mono Lake Watershed is very active. You see them in the paper all the time. The Area Regional Stormwater Committee is our efforts on Phase 2 requirements. and the Muskegon River watershed are just a few of the major ones. There's smaller ones with Duck Creek and some other ones, and like Ryerson watershed and things like that. Public education is a continuing, ongoing effort. This is part of my program. I intend to take this to the other communities once we get through. And if the other townships and cities would like to do this, I'd be more than happy to bring this to them. Emergency management, we are part of your emergency management plan, along with the Public Works Group. We all fall underneath the Road Commission Board. Board of Public Works, Muskegon County, is the Act 185, as you're all aware, which I am a board member. What have we done this year? This is where it gets fun. We've worked on the funding and budgetary changes. Our records we've done a lot of work in. Our maintenance program has changed completely, and other activities. In the funding and the budgetary, our maintenance revolving fund was changed last year as a requirement by the drain code, and we started operating it the way it should be running. And that has resulted in a permanent $50,000 a year. That's not just 1 year. Every year that you've been forming, it's gone. $50,000 a year has been brought back to the general fund. The operation of the maintenance employees with our 3 seasonal employees rather than full-time employment has come out as the annual savings of about $25,000 to the districts themselves, because those charges get brought back in. The equipment revolving is this, we've set the stage for securing, maintaining, and replacing the necessary equipment. It'll be similar to your revolving fund, but it'll basically stay within the drain office, and it'll be self-sustaining. The record system, last year at the end of the season, we had enough money. We got through many of our legal documents and had them scanned and digitized, which allows us to get at them electronically. That has made it easier for us to get them out to engineers, and today we have over 75% of the existing county drain districts are now part of the GIS layer system. We've got ArcView, which is a program which allows us to manipulate the data that the GIS program has within it, which means we can get at mail lists, we can asset management, and do a lot of other stuff. This is an example of your current aerials with all the property lines on it. It does show the element of a county drain district is the yellow. This happens to be the Scott Waters, which has been in the paper lately relative to the celery flats across the lake. The purple line is the actual drain itself, and that'll give you a little bit idea about what we did with definitions. The folks that live inside that district are the folks that own that drain. Our 2011 maintenance program, priorities for 2011 were basically spraying, brush removal, and selective debris removal. We worked in 13 different municipalities last year. We had 9 people in the field. We worked in 13 municipalities on 30 drains, and we cleaned and worked on over 17.5 miles of drains last summer, 3 months, 4 months. 4 months with our guys. In 2011, we logged 1,800 hours of our seasonal workers. Those are the 3 guys that we hired for the 4-month time period. We used the Sheriff's Pay It Back program and logged over 900 hours on these drains, and we used the Goodwill Michigan Works Youth Corps and logged up 300. These are some typical pictures of the things that we've been doing. The drain on the left is before we got there. The drain on the right is afterwards. We can actually see that there's really a ditch there. That one was done in Moreland Township. That's off Apple Avenue. You can see it's the Lewis drain. This is in Ravenna Township, the Lawrence drain. You could barely see the drain itself. After the brush was removed, the property owner under contract with the drain office actually went in and did the digging. This is the water movement that we're getting today. Who's the guy in here? This is very difficult to see. You can find this. If you want to take a look at this, you'll find it on page 26 in your annual report. This is the crux of the matter on what we deal with on a daily basis. The left column in here is the actual drain we worked on. The first column is the number of hours that we have seasonal workers. The second column is the cost that occurred to the maintenance revolving fund. The third and fourth columns are the number of hours with the Pay It Back and the Youth Corps, which cost us nothing to the drains. The fifth column is the actual cost of the equipment. That's the telephones, the trucks, the chipper, chainsaws with MDOT costs. And then the total cost that we had built on that. Yeah, that's fine, they've got it on there. The second to last column is what we spent on, is what was in the drain fund before. The third column is the actual net effect once we move water from the drain fund, or excuse me, money from the drain fund back into the maintenance fund. Those red numbers start appearing, and that's where we get into some of the issues that we have to deal with. Other activities that we have been involved in, the economy's been down. There was only 6 major plan reviews. There was 2 major petitions, but the one petition which you folks are well aware of is the wastewater project, and that was about 8 different petitions all at once on the wastewater project. Another one is on the Ellis Drain because we had to relocate it. Watershed projects, we've been involved in numerous ones. The filtration marsh, Kimball projects on Bear Creek, Letterman Creek, Mona Lake Cellar Flats, and there's a number of other ones. Miscellaneous activities of public relations, education, board of public works, and such. The annual report is submitted in detail, and you'll see it on, if you had a reference to it, it's towards the back of the book that I gave you. I had a reference to it here, I'm sorry. I'll find it quicker this way. Financial statements, you'll find a certification from under my signature on page 21 in the status of the drain funds which are attached to it. There are other funds, there are other records, financial records that support those transfers. And if you have any questions on some of the funds, their balances, or any movement during the year, feel free to contact me. That pretty much wraps everything up. It was a quick run through this, and I tried to make it as short as I could. Is there any questions that you folks have got regarding all the information? Yes, sir.
Not regarding the information, but just the other day I had somebody actually ask me again about that drain over on Sherman. I believe it's part of Redmond Creek, and they asked me if I could ask exactly whose drain it is, at Norton Shores, Muskegon, or the counties.
Yes.
Very good.
It is, it's a combination. The Rudderman Creek drain has got 3 branches in it. 2 of the branches are physically and historically county drains. They reach up into the city of Muskegon Heights and the city of Muskegon. Those pipes actually are county drains. The districts themselves have been diluted over the years by extension of those drains, so there's water coming from outside of the district, which makes it very difficult. And that's the meetings with the city of Muskegon to try and figure out whether or not we could do something with all the cities. And there's a chapter underneath the drain code where Norton Shores, Roosevelt Park, and Heights, and the city of Muskegon can all work together and create what they call a Chapter 20 drain, to where that would bring the color of the drain code in there so we can deal with some of the timber issues that the state has placed on that and try and do some repairs in there. But the answer to your question is all to do with, they're all new. So. And there's also a sanitary sewer in the middle that was built with a drain commissioner, which you just took ownership on.
Okay, well, I guess then my question is, so I can answer to the individual, who do they have to contact about getting that cleaned out so the water will actually flow through there and possibly stop the potential flooding?
They can start with me, and I'll make sure that we get somebody that can take a look at it.
Anyone else have questions of the commission?
Yeah, I have one question, Dave. An individual who lives on Broadway, water has been, actually they have well water, and the water is no good anymore because of the apparent pollution from the ponds at that Walmart or Sam's Club. Is there anything that can be done about that?
I've been in contact with Fruitport Township. I've talked with this lady several times over the last year or so. Last reference I had was from the township. She was at the board review for issues because of the pollution. She has public water that's available for her, but she does not want to use it. And I can understand some of those situations in there. I believe the problem that she's experiencing is more saline or salt coming from the parking lot runoff, which they believe is part that goes into the retention pond system in there and becomes part of the groundwater. and then it migrates. That's her conclusion on what's happened. The discussions I've had with her is that when you get into these types of issues, they're very difficult to prove, and it takes a lot of scientific data to go through this issue. And unfortunately, she's a one person looking at Walmart. That Walmart, those ponds are actually county drain easements. I don't believe the Walmart was at 433. That was built before the past drain commissioner started using 433 drains. But our office is also involved in it too, so I know the situation.
It's not a lot of damage to it, just the pipes and.
Understood.
No, no. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Now, the point of the agenda.